amazing Australians and the story of their lives. You're tuned to Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald.
Hello and welcome, listeners. Now, I'm not a whisky drinker myself. However, over the years I've bought many a bottle, for my brother likes a good whisky, as does my brother-in-law and a number of friends. And I was once on a beautiful ship on the Moselle, whose next group of passengers were to be from a Scottish whisky club, and the captain assured me they would be a happy lot. But in Tasmania, whisky distilling was illegal until 1992, when a pioneering whisky maker by the name of Bill Lark successfully challenged the unfair and outdated law. But it is not whisky making in Tasmania that my guest today, award-winning author Karen Brooks, who not only lives in Tasmania, where her husband Stephen has a brew distillery, has written about in her wonderful new novel, The Whisky Widow. It was a time in the 1780s Scotland when whisky making was illegal but a means of survival in a country under occupation by the British, decades after disastrous Battle of Culloden. Welcome, Karen.
Oh, thank you, Rosemary. What a lovely intro.
It's just wonderful to have you. Now, you are the author of 16 books, historical fantasy, young adult fantasy, and non-fiction. So what made you decide to write a novel about whisky making in Scotland? Was it your own involvement, sort of with your husband's Captain Bligh's brewery and distillery?
I think that made it easier because I had access to a lot of experts, including the wonderful Bill Lark and his wife Lynn Lark,
Yes.
and other, connoisseurs. But I think basically I have a great love of Scotland, and I'd already written a novel set in Scotland based on a true story of one of the last witch hunts that occurred there back in the early 1700s. And I found myself really drawn back there. There's so many marvellous stories, untold stories still. And of course, being in the industry, the whiskey industry,
Yes.
I am very aware of the passion that people have for the drink and the romance surrounding it. But of course, it has a very dark side as well, and a very political side. And I felt it was really important to tell that, as well as the role women played in the industry. It's a very male-dominated industry. Women are these days
Yes.
have a role in every aspect of it, of course, but they did back in the day too, when it was mostly illegal. So yeah, I
Right.
wanted to tell that story about its origins.
Oh, how wonderful. Now, my mother was a Mackenzie from Inverness in Scotland, so it's of great interest to me. We'll go back a little bit further, if that's okay. You were born in Sydney to a non-English speaking immigrant and learned to speak English through books. Is that where your love of books started, Karen?
Yeah, probably that, and my grandmother too. She was German, and English was her, I think, fourth or fifth language, and for my mother it was her third language, and
Right.
she could read it, but she couldn't speak it very well. And books were the way I came to it, but they were the way I came to so many things actually. And I just remember them as being being a very special, quiet time. Not only, stillness within oneself and being able to escape into other worlds and experience all sorts of things vicariously through reading, but also it was a very special time with my grandmother and also with my mother.
Oh, how lovely. But you then, Karen, you went on to be, for a number of things, but you went on to be an actress for some time, and then you joined the army. So tell us a little bit about that time.
Well, I was acting professionally and non-professionally from the age of 9.
All right.
And and in fact, one of my first roles was at the North Sydney Independent Theatre under the estimable and very scary Doris Fitton. She was marvellous. And I always thought I wanted to be an actress, a stage actress, because back in the day, the time I'm talking about, there wasn't the celebrity culture that there is now. And film was something that very few and far between Australians ever got access to, let alone Hollywood. So for me, it was stage, possibly TV. I auditioned for NIDA and I got asked back for a second audition. That's the National
Yes.
Institute of Dramatic Art in Sydney. You're very famous.
Wow, yes.
Got a great alumni. And I didn't make it with my second audition. I was only 17 and they told me to go away for a year and basically mature. And I think I was quite discouraged because back then, you think, oh, my God, my life is over.
Oh.
I can't do what I want to do. And my father had been in the army, and indeed my mother had also served in her home country's army. It was compulsory service when she was young.
Yes.
And I just think I saw it as something to do. And I joined as an officer cadet and did training for a year. And I was posted into the survey regiment. So I became a cartographer.
All
And I was
right.
the only female officer with 300 men. And I was posted to Bendigo, Victoria. There were women there too, of course. And
Was this
that was
at Adver or Duntroon?
no, they did that RAC school. I was one of the
Oh,
last to go through what was called Women's Royal Australian Army Corps RAC school in Georges Heights in Mossman.
all right.
And
Yes.
yeah, we were equivalent to the Portsea boys. The Portsea men did a year's training. The girls did a year's training. Only men back then went to Duntroon, and
That's
for the full degree and did their full degrees there. So that wasn't
well.
available to women then, but it did become very quickly available afterwards. So so I served there for five years.
Oh, how wonderful! Actually, as my listeners know, my husband and my brother were both at Duntroon, but back in their day, they didn't end up with a degree. They had to go out. Now I've got a grandson there, and he ends up with a wonderful engineering degree. So it's all changed a lot. But then, Karen, you went on to receive a PhD at Wollongong University.
Yes, I did. I left the army basically because I had children. I got married and had children, and you weren't encouraged to stay in. You could stay in, but it was still very much a new thing for women to do, for a mother to be working and remaining in the forces. So I wasn't really encouraged. And when I left, I realized I really didn't have any qualifications. So I started studying part-time for a degree, and I loved it so much. And I basically never left university. So got my honours degree and then applied for a scholarship and got a scholarship to a few unis, but chose Wollongong. Having come from Sydney,
Yes.
I wanted to be as close to Sydney as I could. I didn't apply to any of the city universities. I think after living in Bendigo, Victoria for, nearly 11, 12 years, I found the city a bit overwhelming. Love to visit it. Love my family is still there. But so Wollongong was my choice. And I did my PhD there.
And why and how did you end up in the Netherlands?
In the Netherlands,
yes.
Oh, that was just such a fantastic opportunity. Basically, it was really interesting. When you're an academic, you often get opportunities to teach overseas, as an exchange teacher or whatever. And you do lots of collegial work research-wise with researchers from overseas. So I had a fairly good network of colleagues around the world. But there was an American Yes, it was run by Americans. It was owned by the Japanese. It was based in Maastricht in the Netherlands.
Oh, I know Maastricht, yes.
Yeah. And
the home of André Rieu.
It is indeed their most famous son.
That's right.
So I got the opportunity to teach at this Japanese-owned, American-controlled university, but for a semester, and they had lecturers from all over the world. So
right.
And students from all over the world. So it was a real international flavour there, and it was just wonderful. And so I was there for about 3 months in one stint, and then I was asked back. So 2 years later, I went back and did it again. And I actually got a third opportunity. By then, the campus had moved to Middelburg, which is not too far from The Hague, I believe.
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to go because I got very sick and I couldn't go. So but I just those opportunities. I'd never been to Europe in my life the first time, and Maastricht, as you know, is right at the foot of the Netherlands. But you jump on a train in 5 minutes, you're in Belgium. Actually, you can walk to Belgium. 10 minutes, you're in Germany, and there was a fast train to Paris in 2 hours. So it was just magic.
Very, very central.
It was just wonderful.
We were very lucky that we spent actually 3 years in doing the Dutch canals in our own boat and ended up in Maastricht. But a beautiful, beautiful city. But Karen, then you went on to go to China.
Oh, I did. Yes. Again, that's who you know.
Yeah.
I had a friend who headed up a very prestigious international school there, and they wanted somebody to come and do in-service training for the teachers and interact with the pupils too. So I went. I was the very first academic to go into this school and give in-service training to the teachers.
Right.
And again, they were from different countries. I could do it in English. There were some Chinese, but they were mostly from other countries.
Yes.
Some Russian, European, American, South American. It was just fantastic. And the students were from all over the world too, because they were often the children of expats that were brought into China. It was just before the Beijing Olympics. So
right. Yeah.
they had a real boom in Beijing of building, and they were recruiting engineers and all sorts of people from around the world. So so it was very important that the teachers were brought up to speed with stuff, and that was such a great opportunity, and I loved every moment of it.
Oh, that would have been wonderful. Now, we were talking with Paul, our producer here, before, because Paul was a fan of yours when you wrote for the Courier Mail. So how did you fit all that in with everything else you were doing?
Yeah, it's funny because I think we tend to think of people and their occupations, that their work as being quite siloed. You just do one thing, then you do another. You leave work at home, you come home, and then you fulfill whatever other role you have in the house. I've always overlapped. And I think the one thing that's been common to all my careers is writing. So I was writing academic research pieces, preparing articles for all sorts of stuff and research papers and with colleagues and, lectures and class tutorials and stuff. And funnily enough, Big Brother had just burst onto the scene in all its brutal reality. And that was back in 2001.
We had Reggie Bird on here.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's right. That was the very first season with Reggie and Sarah with the bum dance.
Reggie's been on a couple of times with me, which has been wonderful.
Right. And a Taswegian, it's funny, but I thought, this is worth writing an article about, because I was teaching media and popular culture. When I say popular culture, I also taught Shakespeare and Homer, because they were the popular culture of their day. So and it was a really great way to introduce students to historical texts, to the classics, because you just used a level playing field by talking about popular culture now, and then dragged them back through time into history and expose them to all those other wonderful texts there. But anyway, I thought that Big Brother would be really interesting to write about. I showed the basis of a research article to a colleague, and he said, Karen, you should give this to the Courier Mail. I think they might be interested in something like this. So I found out who to send it to, the editor of the opinion pieces, sent it off, never heard a thing. 2 days later, students came and found me. They said, Karen, your piece on Big Brother in the Courier Mail was fabulous.
Oh, really?
I said, what? What piece? And I went to the library and found the newspaper, and it was heavily edited, but it was my piece, 'cause what I've written was far too long.
Yes.
And as a consequence of that, the editor started contacting me and saying, would you be able to write on this? Would you be able to write on that?
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it gradually morphed into a regular weekly column and taught me some fantastic skills. And I worked with the most amazing people there. Dennis Atkins, Margaret Wenham, Paul Sivert. There was just some fantastic journalists there at the time. And it was great. And it taught me to be, I guess, not be afraid to remove words, not to be afraid of being edited and corrected and all sorts of things. So it was a really good lesson for a writer to have.
Absolutely. It's amazing how many people actually did start. Sally Ann Atkinson, who's a great friend of mine, has been on our show a number of times. She worked as a reporter on the Courier Mail long, long before your time. But Paul, now tell me, so you were quite a fan at that stage?
I was, yes. I used to do the morning shift, 9 to 12, which is still happening here on Reading Radio, and I was the panel op, and we had 2 readers. We used to read a lot of Karen's articles.
How wonderful.
Usually between 11 and 12.
Oh,
and the opinion pages section was 20 past 11, I think we started that.
There you go, Karen, a fan from the past.
No, that's lovely. I do miss it, sometimes, but other times I'm glad I'm sort of not under pressure to produce on a weekly basis, particularly in the current state of the world now. I think my head would explode. I'm more comfortable in the past.
A different world. Now, you're listening to Lots to Chat About. I'm Rosemary Peterswald, and my guest today is award-winning author and academic Karen Brooks. Now, Karen, your academic career came to an end in 2009 when you were diagnosed with cancer. So tell us a little bit about that time. It changed your direction, I think, didn't it?
Oh, it really did. It's such a wake-up call. I thought I was well and healthy, and I had what I can only describe as a bit of an episode, and went to the doctor and got tested and didn't chase up the results. Now, here's a hefty lesson for people: chase up your results.
Right.
And my doctor went on leave, and it wasn't until my husband said, Karen, you better go and follow those up. And I went to the doctor, and I just thought I was perimenopausal, to be blunt. And I saw, as he opened my file, a great big red flag saying urgent cancer. And
Right.
when he started telling me, I don't think I heard anything for the next 10 minutes. It was just white noise in my head. But basically, a month later, I was having major surgery in Sydney. And my workplace were wonderful. They didn't want to lose me. I didn't want to leave. I absolutely loved what I did. I had a year's sick leave.
Right.
And when you get cancer and you go through all the treatment, that's just one stage of it. Sometimes what I learned was post-operatively and even post-remission, which of course happened years and years later, I still have ongoing issues. I still have to have surgeries. I still take minor medications, mainly painkillers when needed, but I still have what would I call it? Ongoing issues from the cancer. It changed my life, changed the way I have to live in the world, and it meant I couldn't return to teaching.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, Rosemary, what was nice and what I clung to in a way was when I was recovering, we'd sold our house in the Northern Rivers and we were moving back to Brisbane, and the house we were about to offer on went under in the floods.
All right.
In the meantime, I had one of my closest friends was here in Tasmania. She also had been diagnosed with cancer, but hers was terminal. Mine wasn't. So I was really fortunate. And I went down to see her when I was well enough and saw how she was struggling. She had no one. And I was so distressed, I didn't want to leave her. And when I got home, my beautiful husband said, look, I've got an idea. How about we've just sold the house. We can't go to Brisbane. Poor Brisbane is suffering. They need to move beyond this. Let's give them time. How about we go to Tasmania and we look after Sarah and my girlfriend? And when I put it to Sarah, she just was speechless. So we did. 3 weeks later, we were down here, our stuff in storage on the Gold Coast, and we rented near her, and we cared for her for the 9 months that she had left. And my poor husband was sometimes caring for both of us because I still was not well.
Yes.
And it was a very bittersweet, precious time because the reality is you think you being here is going to change the outcome.
Right.
Intellectually, we knew it wasn't, but emotionally we clung to this fantasy, and of course it didn't change anything except it made her end days, her end months, I think, a lot easier
to have
ways.
Exactly, to have you there.
Yes. Had love and care that whole time. And but anyway, we decided we weren't going to return. We actually loved it here. We fell in love.
And so you've got a beautiful sandstone home there in Hobart. And a beautiful, as you know, I lived there for many, many years. It's a beautiful part of the world. What's it like? Is it a little bit chilly there today or warm?
It's warm today. Yesterday it was very cold.
Yeah.
Well, not for us Tasmanians. Today I'm in a T-shirt. It's 24 degrees. The sun's shining. It's absolutely beautiful. And tomorrow we have probably our first, maybe one of our only few days of summer, according to the north.
Right.
We have 27 degrees. So, people will be out in thongs and shorts and sleeveless tops enjoying it, I'm sure.
It's an ever-changing climate there. You think summer has come and then sadly it runs away and takes a while to come back. Now, Karen, you've published many novels, including The Brewer's Tale, set in medieval England. And was that sort of the beginning of your interest in brewing stories at that stage?
Yes, it was. And it was funny. I was actually going to write a completely different book, another historical fantasy, actually, and I gave the first few chapters to my beautiful agent, Selwa Anthony, and she's so funny. She read it, and what I love about Selwa, and we go back many, many years, and I adore her, and she's very direct, as an agent should be. And she said, Karen, your writing's beautiful, your scene setting's lovely, but I hate the lead lady. And she said, woman leaves her child in the car. That is out of context, I must say. It was a bit more complicated than that. But she said, darling, she said, just write historical fiction. You love it so much. Get rid of the fantasy for now and stick with the history. And it just so happened we were looking to set up a business, or my husband was. He'd been a psychiatric nurse for about 25 years and really needed a break from the industry. He was very, very good at what he did. And he'd been looking to go into hospitality and kept talking about opening a cafe and maybe having a little brewery, making some beer for himself because he was a home brewer for years on the side. And I said to him one day, just forget the cafe, just do a brewery. And by then I discovered, that women used to make were the brewers, apart from the monks. This story had come to me, and Stephen was introducing me to all these wonderful brewers, and he just light up every time he went into a brewery or talked to a brewer. And a year later we did, but the book came first. The funny thing is the book was before the brewery, and we always are grateful to the Brewer's Tale.
Yes. Because
it was like it brought that into our life, and that's been a real adventure for us, and brought some wonderful people into our orbit too.
So when are you going to open a chocolate shop? Because your next one was the chocolate maker's wife. Now that sounds fun.
Well, there was the locksmith's daughter between, so I did take a break from drinks.
Right.
But that was because, ironically enough, that story came to me. Stephen was in between us opening the brewery and him finishing up as a psychiatric nurse. He worked as a tour guide at Cascade Brewery here in Hobart. And he phoned me up one day and he said, Karen, my keys are broken off in the lock in the car. Can you come and get me? And we had to get a locksmith the next day, and we'd gone out to meet the locksmith where Stephen's car was completely unusable. And I'm watching this guy work, and the story about spies and locks and Elizabethan times all flew into my head. And so that's how that happened. So it was sort of related to a brewery, wasn't it? It was outside Cascade.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But chocolate, yes, chocolate used to be a drink, and it was an aphrodisiac.
Yes.
And it has a wonderful, wonderful origin story too. So I went back and wrote about when it was first introduced into England, and London particularly, they opened chocolate houses where men would go and drink this heady, naughty, bitter drink. And I tied it in with the birth of journalism, which was happening around that time, and Samuel Pepys, and it has the Great Fire of London and the plague and all that sort of stuff. So I loved writing that book. I mean, I love writing them all.
Well, they must, and wonderful for all your readers, including me. They are absolutely, well, not just full of historical fact, but they're just a terrific read. You must have to do a lot of research, Karen, so I presume that does include a lot of travel as well.
Well, more with my mind, unfortunately. But and I think that's where being an academic has held me in good stead, because the one thing getting a PhD does, it makes you an expert in a minuscule, tiny area, because you spend 3 years or more researching a specific tiny area, but it makes you a damn fine researcher. So I adore the research, and it's like I haven't let go of that part of my old life. I still do the research, and I'm very hands-on, and I don't have research assistants or anything. And I do what I call very immersive research. So I go back and read parish records. I look at census records if they existed. I listen to the music, read the poetry, the literature of the era, all that sort of stuff, look at the art. And I spend a couple of years at least researching a book. They often overlap, which can be an issue, because I'm glad you didn't want to ask me too much about the Whisky Widow, because I've just finished my next book, which is set in Victorian times in England and America. So and right up to World War II. Yeah, so it starts in late Victorian times. So my mind's been there, and like the Whisky Widow set in the 1780s in the Scottish Highlands.
And I was going to ask you to tell us a little bit more how Greer and her daughter Finn have no choice but to fight for the life they want, really, no matter what. But I might leave that for the readers to buy your wonderful book, which is The Whisky Widow, and it is out now in all bookstores and whatever, and I'll tell you the how to contact Karen shortly. But Karen, now talking of The Whisky Widow, you've travelled throughout Australia promoting your new book. Just tell us about a few of the places that you did go to promote it.
I did Sydney, Melbourne, Geelong. I sadly didn't go any further north this time. I hope to with my next book. I'd love to come back to Brisbane and to Sunshine Coast. Yeah, but I did for the first time, really, I travelled quite extensively throughout Tasmania, which was lovely because I haven't done that before. I've mainly just stayed in Hobart, but I went to quite remote places, to the libraries there, and Georgetown.
Oh, wonderful.
Huonville's not that remote, but Huonville and Kingston in the south, and then some of the suburbs around here. And of course, now that you've asked me that, Rosemary, I can't think of the other places
well, I know you went to the wonderful Petrarchs in Launceston, who've been
Launceston, they're
terrific. They've been wonderful.
Yeah. And the Dimmicks people here in town are beautiful, and the Fullers, and we've got some fantastic independent bookshops here. Cracked and Spineless, isn't that a great name? That's another bookshop here in Hobart, and the Hobart Bookshop. They're also wonderful and supportive of all writers, but particularly the Tassie writers, because we're only a small group. We're a small, connected and close group, which is really lovely.
They are terrific. They've been wonderful to Rob and I for our sailing books, and also for other books. And it is, as you say, it's a not closed. It's a lovely, intimate community, and they are there to help writers, and particularly local writers, which is terrific. Now, you can find Karen. Paul, unfortunately, Karen is waving through the window to tell me that we're running out of time. But before we do that, I just want to say that to contact Karen, and I presume this is the best way, is karenbrooks.com. Is that your best place to be contacted?
To my website. It's actually Karen R. Brooks, because I have such a common name. There's a couple of Karen Brooks, and one is a cookbook author. That's not me. So it's Karen R. Brooks, .com. And you can subscribe to my newsletter. There's a little button on my website, or just email me. And I love getting emails, and I always respond. So that would be lovely.
And you are, of course, on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Look, Karen, it's been absolutely wonderful. I would love to be able to talk to you a little bit longer, but perhaps when the next book comes out, we could have you on again. Have you got a title for your next book?
I have the working title, which I'm really happy to share, but I know the title's changing.
Yes.
And the working title is called The Last Rights, RIGHTS, of Florence Stoker. And Florence Stoker, of course, was the wife of Bram Stoker. So it's all about Bram and Florence, or Florence and Bram, but told from her point of view, their story. And it is amazing. And she is remarkable. And what she did after he died, when she was a widow, has changed the world for creative artists. And we don't think enough. And in fact, very little's known about her. So I had to dig deep. I really did. And what I discovered contradicted the little bit of negative stuff that I did find. On the contrary, she was nothing like what Bram's biographers said.
We will look forward very, very much to that coming out. But thank you, Karen Brooks, academic and award-winning author of many books, including her latest terrific new novel, The Whisky Widow, which is out now, for being my guest. Thank you, Paul, for producing.
Thank you.
And this program has been recorded in the studios of 4RPH Reading Radio Brisbane for syndication around Australia. It will also be available on my YouTube channel, Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you, Paul, and thank you so much for having me.
Great friends and great chats. That was another Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald. Stay tuned next week for another amazing chat.